Today's tale begins with an unplanned apology. She sensed her actions were off, penned a letter, and deep emotions surfaced. It was like the tide rolling in, with words filled with a deep longing for the girl. After finishing, she realized that wouldn't cut it, and laughed at herself before earnestly writing another apology letter. To show his sincerity, Robbie carefully polished his shoes, put on the neat outfit, and held the letter tightly. He hurried to Cecilia's place, but when he stood at the door, he suddenly felt a wave of shy courage wash over him and couldn't help but worry. Just then, he ran into Miss Brioni, and Robbie felt like he had found a lifeline as he asked her to deliver the letter, his eyes full of hopeful anticipation. Soon after Brioni left, Robbie felt as if struck by lightning, realizing he had accidentally put the steamy letter in. Brioni dashed to the corner and sneakily opened the letter, shocked to find that the polite Robbie had written such a scandalous love letter. She tried to suppress her unease, hurriedly handed the letter to her sister, completely forgetting about the envelope herself, her emotions tangled like spaghetti. Vulgarity, lewdness, sexual harassment. Brioni was stunned by these thoughts, sensing she had seen Robbie's darkest side. Subtitles. So she told her cousin about this matter, and they both agreed that Robbie was nothing but a hypocrite. They decided they should call the cops on him. Before dinner, she was wandering around the house when she spotted her sister's earring, and the glimmering earring caught her attention, and she quickly rushed into the study to see what was going on. Sure enough, she saw Robbie and her sister being intimate, unable to accept her crushed closeness with her sister, filling her with despair. Helplessly, her emotions surged like the tide of jealousy, anger, pain all crushing in waves. Jealousy ignited like a bonfire in her heart, and the faint affection she once felt transformed entirely into distinct hatred. In her chaotic thoughts, she had already labeled this as Robbie trying to violate her sister. Subtitles. A crisp bell resounded through the silent air, continuously echoing in Robbie's uneasy heart. As the door creaked open, Cecilia appeared in a dreamy green dress, captivating his gaze. Her skirt swayed gracefully, like a gentle spring breeze, leaving Robbie enchanted. Each fold of her skirt seemed to tell a story of her unique warmth and charm. Robbie's gaze was irresistibly drawn to her, and he unconsciously followed her into the kitchen, oblivious to an earring that slipped quietly from her ear. However, lost in their complicated emotions, neither of them noticed a thing. In truth, Cecil didn't care whether the letter was delivered correctly or not. She confessed that she was angry about Robbie's impending departure and mad at herself for not being able to handle losing him. She had thought she ought to feel genuinely happy for Robbie, but when the moment finally drew near, the words simply refused to come out of her mouth. Just then, Brianna's sudden interruption broke the moment. Startled, they hurried to tidy up and exited the kitchen. That evening, Robbie showed up at the dinner party as promised. Laughter filled the room, but Brioni kept a close, hostile eye on Robbie, making him feel like he was sitting on pins and needles. Suddenly, everyone noticed that the two little cousins were missing, and they all stood up to look for them, with Brioni feeling a growing sense of unease. She wandered alone through the manor, trying to find the kids. As she walked by a patch of grass, she sensed something was off. As she lifted her flashlight, the sight before her was shocking. Laura was sprawled on the grass, looking a mess. Her pale face looked particularly helpless under the moonlight and the flashlight's weak beam, and Brioni didn't even know how to react. Just then, a shadow suddenly darted from the depths of the grass, using the night to escape. Brioni, though startled, firmly claimed she had seen that figure. Without a second thought, Brioni blamed Robbie, seeing herself as a defender of the so-called truth. Pushing an innocent person into the abyss, thus, the wheels of fate began to turn. One wrong decision rewrote everyone's lives, and at that moment, she had no idea she would pay for this mistake for the rest of her life. As the situation escalated, the police arrived, their heavy footsteps shattering the manor's final silence. "Do you know that it's him? Have you seen him before?" Brioni insisted on everything she had seen and elaborated on the details to boost her credibility. In an effort to further persuade, she even produced the steamy letter, while Cecilia felt utterly helpless, only advising the police not to take Brianna's words on faith. That kid always has a wild imagination. Meanwhile, Robbie had found the twins, but instead of gratitude, he was met with cold handcuffs. His budding love for Cecilia was crushed mercilessly that night, as the wheel of fate finally turned. Robbie was wrongfully imprisoned, and his life could never reverse. Cecilia stood at the door in despair, her gaze hollow. Her hands hung weakly by her sides, feeling powerless as she watched her lover be led into the abyss. Upstairs, Briony leaned silently against the window, tears shimmering in her eyes. Perhaps she never imagined things would escalate to this point, but reality was cruel and inescapable. Robbie's life was destroyed by her own hands, while Cecilia's love was tortured to pain in this turmoil. 4 years felt like a long nightmare, tormenting them as they endured through countless days and nights.